Welcome back to the Missoula podcast. Stephen Ressett here. Hey, Brandon, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
How about this heat?
It's pretty crazy.
Wild. 100 degrees this next week?
Yeah. Are you going to get into the river and doing some floating?
I think so. Just last night, my wife said, we need to float the river this week.
Yeah.
So if she said it, we do it.
That's right. We'll want to welcome on our guest, Jim Hicks. Jim, thanks for being here in studio.
Oh, glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. It's good
I'm
to see
excited for this one.
you. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, maybe you can kick us off really high level. What the heck do you do here in Missoula? And what organization are you part of?
Yeah, I'm last 4 years, I've been the executive director for Hope Rescue Mission. And we have just seen it to be our passion and a compulsion to walk into the situation of all the unhoused, the homeless, the addicts, the mental health for all the people living on the streets. We have a big picture roadmap, and that is street to shelter, to recovery, to stability. And we see it that way. So that's just to jump right in. That's kind of our big picture of what we do. Other than that, I'm a recovering pastor. I'm that's what I've done my entire career, and I've loved it and still love it. But boy, just learning a ton of stuff on the other side.
How many years in ministry?
Oh man. I don't know I'm 68, and every year has been ministry.
Okay.
Because my dad was a pastor. We went to Bible college, got involved in churches right off the bat, went to grad school, involved in churches, right out of grad school, go plant one. So it's been my entire life.
Isn't there a rumor in there somewhere that you were a bull rider for a season?
Oh, yeah. And you know what makes a bull rider? You fill his mouth full of marbles, and every time he rides a bull, you take a marble out. And when he's lost all his marbles, he's a bull rider. So yeah, there's a few years I did that, and I got screws and scars to prove it.
Well, take me back to you growing up. Where are you from? And you said your dad was a pastor. When did you decide that I'm going to follow the same route as my dad? Because a lot of people do quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one thing I have to say about my dad is what he was in Sunday morning in the pulpit is what he was every day of the week. So I saw no disparity between what he said, how he acted, and who he really was. And he came to Christ in a real radical way. He's a professional boxer and gave his life to Christ and just went all in. So, you know, I knew that as a young guy that I was going to be in the ministry, but that was the rodeo piece. I kind of fought that bit for a while. And then in high school had a pretty bad accident, and that in the hospital bed, I knew that I was supposed to go ahead and go to Bible school and finish what I knew I was supposed to do. So,
Where were you originally from?
Southern Oregon, Northern California, when we first started. But then my dad pastored in the Pacific Northwest, Idaho, Washington, Oregon. So, yeah.
So you guys were moving around.
Yeah. Back in the day, as a pastor, he was at a place where he would usually build it up, build the church, grow it, and then go on, because he was a real enthusiastic guy. And so,
He wasn't a maintainer. He was like, let's go build stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Entrepreneur spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Stubborn spirit is what that was. Yeah. And all my family on his side and my mom's side are from Missoula. So they're just stubborn mules. They'll just get it done.
So was that the game plan for you falling in, maybe not, maybe you don't want to say it this way, but going into the ministry? Were you going to be like a church builder, or what specific side of ministry excited you right out the gate?
Just from day one, discipleship and small groups.
Okay.
My focus, even though I didn't know it, was really Monday to Monday, not Sunday to Sunday. And that's why I really have a hard time sometimes with churches now when their focus is Sunday. And then we got to beat next Sunday, and then we got to be as good or beat the next Sunday. And it's a Sunday to Sunday focus versus Monday to Monday and people and growing disciples, and not preaching for information, but preaching to pierce the heart and tick people off. And get them going or comfort them, really not just behavior modification, but heart change in the midst of all that. So yeah, that's what always drove me.
You said you went to Bible college. Where'd you end up going to school?
I went to undergrad at Northwest University in Kirkland, and then went to grad school at Assembly of God Theological Seminary in Springfield. I didn't want to go to another AG school, but they had the exact program I wanted. And so that's why we moved back there.
What was that program?
It was, I got a master's in biblical languages. So my major was Greek and minor was Hebrew. And so, yeah, it was perfect for what I needed.
Coming out of school, what was that first role, job? Where did you land?
We came back to my wife's farm and just said, Lord, what do you want us to do? And decided to go plant a church actually down the road from here in Chalice, Idaho. And I think it was when we were driving there, God was going, oh no, send somebody to help them. They're really going to do it. And it was just 3 years of miracles. It was really, you're young and dumb, right? You're going to win the world. But God really helped out. And it was fantastic.
A lot of our guests probably aren't familiar with like the life of a pastor, the challenges of starting a church or planning a church. Can you dive into that experience a little bit more on what that's like? Yeah, we knew nothing about Chalice. So we left Raylene's farmhouse, her family, and drove the 8-9 hours to Chalice, got there at 11 o'clock at night. So this is kind of an example of what took place. Went to the only motel and said, we'd like a room. And the lady laughed at us. And I thought, that's kind of funny, way to, customer service, just perfect. And then she said, sure, I'll give you a room. She goes, we haven't had an open room for 3 months. And the helicopter pilot that has this room got called out on a different job. I'll go remake the bed. You can have it tonight, but that's all. What we found out is the molybdenum mine had just opened and exploded, and the town went from 800 to 3,000. People were all over the place, living in the park, at playhouses, wherever they could. And we didn't know that going there. So that was kind of the first miracle. There's so many more that opened up. And as we just begin to build relationships with people and, start Sunday morning and Wednesday night and Tuesday night, it was crazy. We had a Tuesday night Bible study in May after work. We got off work at 6, and that was a 60-mile round trip. Wednesday night, we had Bible study in our home. Thursday night, we had Bible study in Mackay, Idaho. That's a 120-mile round trip. I mean, you look back at that and go, what were we doing? But we loved it. And we've got lifelong friends and establishment, and the church is doing great from that time. So,
how long were you there?
We were there just 3 years. 3 years, yeah.
What made you decide to leave, and where did you go from there?
Again, let's talk about relationships. My sister and her husband pastored in Walla Walla, and they said, "Man, we'd like some help, and we think you're the one." And Redline and I prayed about it, and as tough as it was, we felt that's what we should do. So we went to Walla Walla, Washington. So yeah, and we're there for 24 years.
24?
Yeah.
Okay. And that experience was good, obviously, to last that long. Did you come to Missoula after that? Yeah, we came to Missoula after that. We were at the church in Walla Walla. We were there a year, and then through different circumstances, which would take 7 podcasts, we planted a church, and in that church for 23 years. We had been sensing a change and actually just loved Missoula for several reasons. Still love Missoula. And then we were called to a church here to start a Saturday night service, and that's why we came. Well, I was going to say, what do you love about Missoula? But maybe we'll get to that in our burning questions.
Good idea.
You want to do
Let's
it right
hold
now?
it. Sure.
Let's hold it.
Okay, we'll hold it. We'll come
Okay.
back to it.
Sorry.
How long ago did you come to Missoula? How many years ago?
It was 2009.
2009.
2008, actually.
Okay.
That's right, 2008.
So it sounds like you have to sort of marry the right type of person to go into this life of ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about relational dynamics between you and your wife of this is an adventure. We don't know where we're going to be. We're starting this from ground up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was that like?
Well,
on
I
your
think, Stephen, most
relationship?
people live life looking forward to the weekend, but you're going to a new place to start a Saturday night church, which
Mhm.
means you don't have the Saturday, especially in the summer, like what we all live for in Missoula.
Yeah.
Like you lose that and it impacts your wife and
Yeah.
your children and your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that
Yeah.
dynamic like?
So Raylene was raised on a farm by a dad who went and pioneered this ground and built the farm up from nothing. So she was kind of used to that, not moving around, but going, this is what we're going to do. And the thing about Raylene, we've been married 47 years. I don't think she's ever said, well, she said, Jim, you're crazy, but she's never said, no, this is totally wrong. This is, or I'm not going to church today or whatever. We've just been right in step since that time. She's a tough farm girl and we'll figure it out. That's kind of one of her favorite things. We'll figure it out. And so that's what we do. Yeah.
She's tough and you're crazy. And it works.
Exactly. It has worked.
And so when you got to Missoula in 2009, what does that season of ministry and life look like for you guys? What were you're doing the Saturday night service, as you said, but what were some of the challenges and great opportunities that were happening at that time or over the last few years?
Yeah. I don't know how much of this you'll edit out. We found that the particular church we were at was not going to make room for small groups because I came under Saturday night and small groups. And I saw real quickly, Saturday night's not going to work. And unless you cut stuff, you're not going to have room for small groups. So that was kind of working hard through that. Plus the summers. I'm an outdoor guy. I think it'd be great if, and in fact, we did this in Walla Walla. Hey, folks, be honest and send your support in because that's what happens. But we're only meeting once a month. Go do summer. Don't worry about it here. And some people loved it. And some people didn't because they wanted that.
Sure.
But that's what I feel, man. We get recreated in recreation. And if you're depending on just on Sunday for your discipleship, then there's something wrong in the midst of that anyway. So it was an experiment. And so that's why we began to change some things. We did have, at one point, great thriving small groups, but it was really hard to pump that up and keep it going. That kind of the focus and the ministry of the church was a little bit different. So we threw into that vision and kind of let some of the stuff that we wanted slide. And that was fine. That was fine.
Before we get into our burning questions, why small groups? Like, why is that a passion of yours, and what is the value of small groups? Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the New Testament, there's over 70 one another's, love one another, bear one another's burdens. That's really hard to do when you're looking at the back of somebody's head and don't have any other opportunities. So that's why small groups are so important. I mean, Jesus had 12. He lived with them, life on life. You find out they camped together, and there's nothing like camping with people where you find out what they're like and what they whine about, and as well as their passion and their dreams. So just that life on life is just so important to me. That's to me, my point of view, that's where the Spirit works the best. That's where we learn the most. I learned the most from a small group of guys that I sit around with and talk about life and might argue and complain, but work it out. And I've gotten kicked out of churches for talking too much on Sunday. So when I'm not out preaching, right? So because I want to interact, with, hey, what do you guys think about that? Or hey, that is great. How are we going to apply that anyway? Yeah, just me.
That's awesome. All right, let's jump into our questions. Brando, you lead us off.
Okay. Jim, what was your first initial memory or observation of Missoula, Montana?
Are you familiar with Bellingham, Washington?
Mhm.
When we walked downtown the first time we were here, I go, Raylene, this is Missoula ham.
Mm.
It's a lot like Bellingham. And why we like that, it was a lot like Walla Walla, a thriving town with a good liberal population and some craziness. And it's just our kind of town. It's not what we avoid. It's what we run into in the fact of let's go there and embrace that. One little caveat in Walla Walla, I came out of a Starbucks when they first had one there several years ago. And this lady accosted me in the sense of, man, why are you in Starbucks? They support this, this, and this, and they're this. And I go, man, I think that's exactly where Jesus would be. And so to help her get through that, I bought her a $20 gift certificate to Starbucks. And that was, that was 20 years ago. So she used it, right? But I think that's where Jesus would be. He wouldn't be, oh man, that's too liberal, or that's whatever. He would be right there. So that's why we like Missoula.
What's your go-to coffee spot in Missoula?
There's only one coffee spot in Missoula, and that's black coffee. So I don't know. We could have probably some good discussion over that. And I'm so glad.
Shout out to James Chapman.
I'm so glad they reverted back to the Quonset hut and left downtown.
Just the one location.
Yeah, just the one location. Yeah, they're just great.
My only complaint, and I've shared this with Jim, their owner, is their location and proximity to my home. It's so far away that, but I love it. It's worth the drive, but
yeah, it is
a
worth
south
the drive.
location would be a little more convenient for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like the drive going there. I mean, that's all beside the point. I like black coffee.
Black coffee, solid.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid. In terms of restaurant, what's your favorite go-to in Missoula?
I would have to say it's the Trough. I like the Trough.
Have we had the Trough yet on here, Nick?
Yeah,
it's good. It's a great spot.
I don't know why I like it. It's out there. I mean, I like Catalyst when it was downtown. Now the second Catalyst is just kind of a drop-in place, right? But we liked Catalyst. But yeah, the Trough would be a place we end up.
What zip code do you live in?
59803, right? Mm-hmm. South Hills.
The best zip code in Missoula.
Yeah, here we go.
Always. Oh, Stephen. Yeah. What do you love the most about Missoula?
I love the ability to leave my house and within minutes be on trails or be on the water, the buzz downtown, the people, the challenges. I like it all. And particularly what I do now, I love the challenge of the homeless situation. Some people hate it, right? And we could talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in a minute.
Yeah,
I want to get into that.
What's the weirdest thing about Missoula to you?
The weirdest thing about Missoula is that some people will just stay in their tribes and not learn from each other. And those tribes are bad, or they're not friendly, or that's what I try to break down, is just mix people's groups and invite different people over to the house or whatever. And because once you build relationships, you find they're not that weird or off or different. They've just got some interest and answered life's questions a bit different, and that's where they're at. Yeah.
Is there a particular book you've read that has made a significant impact on your life?
Yeah, there's one. It's called The Divine Conspiracy by Dallas Willard. Read it several times. I've used it as a reference. I'm actually reading it again right now. It's Dallas Willard's been one of those guys that have shaped so many people, like John Mark Comer now, if you're familiar with him. John Ortberg, he shaped John Ortberg. There's just a ton of good stuff in that book.
Awesome. Well, let's jump back into your story. So things are going well at your church position. What made you leave the church to go and pursue this new opportunity and this passion for the homeless?
I didn't want to leave, but let's just leave it like that. God's plan is great, right? And so when after we left CLC, we were committed to Missoula, but what did that mean? And didn't know that there was this open position. But then on one day, a board member and a staff member of Hope Rescue Mission called me and said, we think independently, they didn't know, we would like you to apply. And I just needed to put some food on the table. So I said, yes, having no idea what I was stepping into. Knowing that my heart was always to walk with the poor and that the church should walk with the poor in several different ways, because poverty is just a lack of relationships. Sorry, I'll go back to that word again, right?
Mhm.
All poverty is a lack of relationships. Their social systems have been broken, their family systems, whatever. There's a lack of relationships. If any of us here lost our house today, we would have a place to sleep tonight. Family would invite us in, or friends, or whatever. A lot of people that have not had that, they get lost, they drop out, then it's hard to work their way back. And then most likely they have to do it criminally in some way. And then they completely drop out, have no ID, no driver's license, no birth certificate. They're just off the grid. And that's part of what we do, is walk with people to help them get their IDs, help them get their Social Security, find out if there's any benefits they have through, maybe they're a veteran, maybe they have some disabilities. And our whole thing is not handouts, but hand-ups. As long as folks cooperate, we want to move them towards that stability. So that's our passion, and the passion of the staff as well.
You said it at the beginning of the episode, but remind us again. I think it was a 4-step process you have.
Yeah, our roadmap is street to shelter,
Okay.
to recovery, to stability. They have to have that shelter to begin to know that they're safe, that nobody's going to take advantage of them, that maybe they can even leave their backpack and go to a job and come back and it will be there, or their bed will be there. And that's why we now have the temporary safe outdoor space in our partnership with the county and United Way, where we have the 100 square feet tiny homes that they can lock up. There's heat there, air conditioning. They can go to their work. We have shower trailers, bathrooms, gathering rooms for them. Banks have been out there and done business classes. Dave Edgel comes by, and if anybody wants work, it's a place for them to feel safe and secure as they learn how to navigate what it's going to be like to get back in a house and join society. So, yeah, we have a budget building plan for them. We have classes for them. We walk with them to get their IDs. I mean, they don't, I've equated it for some of these folks. It's like you and I being stuck in a rocket ship and say, fly to Mars. And we'd go, well, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just going to leave. That's the same way for some. You got to have all this paperwork to get a house. And so just wraparound services, helping them to achieve those things.
What's been the most surprising thing in your journey with Hope Rescue Mission and working with homeless people that you wouldn't have expected when you started?
Yeah, I think two things, Stephen. One is Raylene my wife has described it this way. When you're in a church, you're just pulling people along, and you're in the back pushing the train forward and loving on people. And it's like we are hanging on, watching God in real time every day do stuff. And I think it's foundation of Scripture started in the Old Testament, that when there's great need, then there's great opportunity. And we want the victory that comes from some of the benefits of walking with Jesus, but we don't want the struggle to get those benefits, So that's, again, my perspective. So that's been the one thing, is just to see, God move. Man, we're out of money. And then something shows up and we've got money. Or this person, they're never going to go forward. And then all of a sudden you see him making those right choices going forward. That's just so fulfilling. The other thing is to learn that there are three categories of people. There are the have-nots. They don't have any means to move forward, but they want to. Finding out who those are and helping them. There are the can-nots. They have, it might be mental illness. It might be substance abuse. They cannot move forward, but they want to. So help them do that. There are the will-nots. They don't want to move forward. They like living on the streets. And so we just say, well, hey, we're here if you ever change your mind. But we're not going to feed that.
I'm assuming, Jim, you know some of like the demographics of just the homeless. I don't even know the appropriate term. Homeless problem, homeless situation, homeless population. How many homeless in Missoula, roughly?
There's about 1,200 right now, 1,200 homeless.
And of those 1,200, what percentage is that last group? They're not going to do anything different.
About 20%.
Okay. So it's interesting. Just some things that are making me challenge. You hear all these questions and these topics and people talking about the homeless problem, and it's a housing issue. It's a mental illness issue. What is the underlying cause of the homeless population in Missoula?
It's the.
I mean, sorry, and I know you referenced the broken systems of relationships,
right,
but on a little bit more tangible level, what is that issue?
It's an intractable trifecta of affordable housing, because some people, it's just, for example, I was at a meeting and I asked one of our staff, why is that caseworker at our meeting? And she goes, who? And I said, well, that lady in the back, well kept, didn't look homeless, but she was at the community meeting. And she goes, well, that's not a caseworker. That's one of our residents. And I go, well, tell me the story. A mom with 2 kids, a hairdresser, doing great. But her landowner came to her and said, I am so sorry. I got a cash offer on my house. And she could not find housing for what she made. So she was a part of our homeless community for about 3 months until she could get her feet on the ground. So there's a few of those. It is a housing problem. The other part is mental illness. For whatever reason, was it drugs first, whatever, they just need help going forward. And the other problem, of course, is drugs. And as you know, everything here is cut with cheap fentanyl. And some people are just not coming back from a drug-induced psychosis. They didn't mean to. And then they get in the trap of, you know what, that was pretty nice. I don't have a job. I don't have anything to do. I'll just try to get some more money to do that again so I can feel good. And it's the old escape. Then they get in a trap.
So I have 2 follow-up questions. What is it about Missoula that seems to have an attraction for the homeless population compared to other surrounding communities? And then what do you ultimately believe is the solution for crisis?
Yeah. So the attraction, there's the myth that if you build it, they'll come. The homeless population, 90% are Western Montana people. And Missoula is a place you come for services. Missoula has some water. You need water. Let's just face that. You need water. If you're going to go camping and you have a choice between a desert and a lake, a river, you're going to go there. So a great percentage of the homeless, like I said, 90 and sometimes even more when we've surveyed through a point in time count, are from Western Montana. Very few come through and stay. They can't handle the winters. But we've had folks, Which
I've always joked, if I was homeless, I guess on the streets in the middle of January, like I'd be homeless in San Diego.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I can't imagine.
So a lot of these people, one that I'm particularly building a relationship with now is he's lived here in Missoula, homeless in a culvert, I won't tell you where, for 11 years.
Wow.
He goes, I can teach survival. I can teach people how to get through this. But again, he's one of those trapped in that substance use that we're trying to help out. But yeah, a lot of folks are from here, from Western Montana.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Do you have any strategic partnerships that you're working with in the community? And what's that relationship been like with the city and county or whoever it may be, or other organizations? Are you guys all teaming up together, or is it all sort of separate?
Yeah, no, a big shout out to the collaboration here in Missoula, whether it's with Mayor Davis or our 3 county commissioners. We have a great partnership. We've had people come from, officials come from Alaska, from Texas, from California, calls from the East Coast to come and visit the temporary safe outdoor space. How are you guys doing it? With last year, we had a 73% success rate getting them into housing. That's not bad. Right.
That's really good.
So a lot of people are asking questions. How do you do that? When we start talking about our partnerships with the county and our partnerships with the city and United Way and all the entities here in town through what's called the collaborated entry system or coordinated entry system, they're just blown away. They go, well, we can't talk to our city council. We can't talk to the mayor. We can't talk to the county commissioners. And I just go, oh, well, yeah, I don't know what that's like. Because we can't do it without them. And that partnership has been really great here in Missoula. That's what I like about Missoula. If you'll just leave your tribe for a bit and find out who's out there and find out their passions and say, we have differences, but we can work on this issue. We can make a difference here. And that's what I like about working with the different partners.
73%, is that what you said? 73? Sounds phenomenal. How's that happening? What is the solution for?
The 73% comes from, first of all, getting them stable and safe in that shelter so they can start working on their challenges, and then getting those wraparound services, whether it's mental, whether it's recovery, whatever it is, so that they can move forward, and then teach them, when you get in a house, you're going to get bills. Here, you can't have it's not going to be a party place. You'll get kicked out and be in the same place. You're going to have to budget your money. So just teaching them those life skills that they've ignored or didn't want to do, or just, lost contact, giving them those life skills. Here's the migration. I used to say when I saw a homeless person, what's wrong with you? Just get a job. That has migrated in the last 4 years from what's wrong with you to what happened to you? Why are you here? To even further migrating to what are you missing? How can we fill the gaps to help you move forward? And that's really our passion. And of course, the drive behind that is the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
How do these individuals get into your program? Are they applying? Or are you finding them on the street corner and offering them housing? Like what's the process?
Our waiting list is over 240 right now.
Wow.
So there's an intake process. They apply. We have initial interviews. Then we have interviews with our staff. Will they fit in the program? Are they just wanting a place, or do they want to move forward? So it's quite a process. Then once they get on site, they have evaluations 30, 60, and 90 days to see if they're moving forward. We don't have a timeline of like, you're going to get kicked off. Our timeline is, are you meeting the markers? It may take this person longer to get this than the next person. As long as they are moving forward and cooperating, they can stay there. But if they stop, we got to find out why, what's going on. But because we want to help them move forward. We don't want to help them stay where they're at. We want to help them move forward according to their goals.
Probably one of the last questions. We're coming up against time here, Jim. If there are people out there that are driving, downtown or on Reserve and see our homeless population, they're saying, what is wrong with you? Get a job. Can you just speak a little hope into what's happening and what's going on, and maybe some of the future the ideal that you hope to see here in Missoula?
Yeah, I hope to see church people, everyone kind of not avoid, but rush in. Let's go back to the Old Testament. When they saw a homeless person, it was the society's responsibility to invite them into their home for just the night or whatever. If we can learn how to find out who they are, and if they want to move forward, then let's help them as a society. And that's what we want to do. Either take our training to churches. I'm working on that. Actually done more training in the city and county and business groups than I have in churches. We've got to deal with this. And again, I have to say the collaboration here in Missoula is just fantastic. So we're making a small dent. It's a tough challenge.
Yeah.
It keeps me going during the day. It keeps me up at night. But we're seeing some change, and that's what we're excited about.
Awesome. Well, Jim, thank you for all the effort, the love that you pour into the city and into people, and your dedication to making Missoula a better place.
No, thank you.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, my privilege.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Jim.
You bet.
What's up, Missoula? This is Nick Valla, producer of the Missoula Podcast. We truly appreciate you hanging out with us as we dive into the stories that make our city special. If you could do us a quick favor and follow the show wherever you are listening, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, maybe you're watching on YouTube, so hit that little subscribe button. It really helps us out. Head on over to www.themissoulapodcast.com for more information, and we'll see you next week.